The morning my nest egg vanished. Narrated by Frank Miller himself. You ever have a morning where everything clicks, coffee strong, sunlight warm, until one buzz from your phone makes the whole day skid sideways? That was me at 7:12 a.m., standing in my Ohio kitchen in a robe older than some of my tools, watching a squirrel wrestle the bird feeder. First sip of coffee tasted like pure retirement. Then my phone vibrated. Alert, large transfer initiated. Please confirm. I squinted. Wrong account. Wrong number of zeros. I actually said out loud. Glitch. Because talking to yourself feels steadier than silence. Before I could blink, another text landed. Transfer completed. I opened the banking app. My retirement account, 42 years of double shifts, careful saving, and a little luck, looked like a desert at high noon. Only a few lonely digits remained. I called my son Evan on speaker. He answered with that breezy confidence he's been wearing like a second hoodie since high school. Dad, chill. I moved it. It's crypto, like we talked about. You're gonna thank me. Multipliers. This is how people level up. I gripped the counter. You moved it? All of it. Not all. He said, like that helped. I left you checking. Look, market's heating up. We'll triple it by summer. You'll be Mr. Cabo with a gold driver and a new knee. The squirrel outside did a backflip as if even he couldn't believe what I was hearing. Evan, I said, quiet but firm, you had no permission to touch your father's retirement. Come on, Pop. You always move too slow. This is me helping. Don't stress. That's your hook, friends. Before I tell you how deep this rabbit hole goes, do me a favor. Hit subscribe so you don't miss how this ends. Drop your time zone in the comments. I love seeing where people listen from, because what comes next is a ride every retiree should hear. My name is Frank Miller. I'm 67, a retired plant manager who believes in early mornings, honest tools, and handshakes that last. You don't build a 40-year career in heavy manufacturing without spotting trouble before it breaks a machine. When Evan moved back from California, he brought 2 suitcases and a vocabulary full of startup sparkle. Dad, he said on day 1, paper statements? Ancient. Let me digitize your life. Now I'm no dinosaur. I let him streamline the bills, set up online banking, teach me to thumper at my phone. But every favor arrived with a sales pitch. We should get you into stablecoins, Dad. Just a hedge. Boomers missed the multiplier window. Crypto is like a 401k with jet fuel. I'd laugh and ruffle his hair. Even at 35, he still leans in when I do that. Son, I'd say, there's a difference between building and betting. He grinned back. You built. Let me bet for you. And that, gentlemen, is lesson 1. Help with tech is not permission to manage your money. I see that clearly now. By the time Evan hung up on my no, I was already sliding into the old factory floor mindset. Calm. Alert. Every sense alive. I grabbed the yellow legal pad I used back when I ran night shifts and made 2 columns. Money and trust. Under money I wrote, transfer occurred. Unauthorized. Under trust one wrote, love stands. Boundary crossed. Then I called the bank. I didn't yell. I documented. We added verbal passphrase, dual approval, and a rule that no transfer over $500 leaves without a live phone confirmation from me. Boring? Beautiful. Next call was to my neighbor and longtime friend Kurt, a retired police sergeant. Bring your flashlight. I said, we're going to the basement. That where you keep the bourbon? He asked. That's where I keep the truth, I said. Kurt was at my door in 10 minutes. The basement is where I keep everything that proves a life well lived. Tool benches, kids' trophies, old Father's Day cards, and a steel file cabinet the color of respect. We spread 5 years of bank statements across my workbench and went hunting. Kurt reads numbers like some men read novels. In minutes he found 3 aggregator apps, connected by my son, not me, bridging my bank to outside exchanges. Monitoring apps, he muttered. or rope bridges if someone wants to move your cash fast. We drew boxes on my yellow pad. Bank aggregator exchange. Arrows where arrows shouldn't be. Kurt looked up. You gonna tear into him? No, I said. I'm going to educate him loudly, if necessary. I texted Evan. Meet me at DeLuca's. Noon. No excuses. DeLuca's is a diner where the waitress knows both my usual order and my blood pressure. Perfect for a hard talk. He slid into the booth, laptop in hand. Pop, I brought charts. You'll love. I brought boundaries. I cut in, sliding over my yellow pad. Read. He skimmed the 2 columns, half a smirk on his face. Money. Trust. Cute. Not cute. Critical, I said. Money moves fast. Trust moves slower. You moved both without asking. He tried that smooth tech bro tone. Dad, everybody does this now. You're just not up on modern finance. I kept my eyes on him. I don't misunderstand finance. I understand consent. That one landed. He stared out the window at a parking lot full of cars that still belonged to their owners. I just wanted to help you win bigger, he muttered. I already won, I said. I built a steady life. That's the prize. He didn't argue. Evan tapped the yellow pad with one restless finger. So what now? You gonna undo it? First, I said, you call the exchange and start a reversal. If they can't, we document everything. Then we shut every door you opened without asking. And you write a short statement for the record. He looked stung. A statement? Dad, you make it sound criminal. You stepped over a line. This is just us putting the line back where it belongs. He swallowed, then nodded. Okay, I'll call. We put my phone on speaker and dialed the crypto platform. A chipper bot thanked us for believing in the brave new economy and looped us through a jingle long enough for me to memorize its drumbeat. When a human voice finally came on, Evan explained carefully that the transfer was unauthorized by the account owner. I watched him choose each word like a man who's learning how heavy words can be. No miracle refund, but we got the next best thing. A ticket number and a written confirmation that funds were frozen pending review. That little string of letters and digits felt like a steel pin in a loose hinge. Evan exhaled hard. Happy now. Protected, I said. There's a difference. Back home, we went to my basement command post. I pulled a fresh sheet from my legal pad and, with Kurt's help, wrote 5 bulletproof rules. 1. No transfer leaves an account without my live voice on the call. 2. Every new app needs written approval first. 3. Emergency isn't a password, it's a 911 call. 4. Keep a 6-month cash cushion. 5. If I don't sign, it didn't happen. I taped the sheet inside the desk drawer where I keep the will and the old family photos. Then I looked at my son. Read it, I said. He read each line aloud. Out loud is how rules learn to stand. Got it, he said quietly. All 5. To mark the moment we drove back to DeLuca's. The waitress, who's watched Evan grow from a sugar packet bandit to a man with a mortgage, brought pie without asking. You think I'm just a reckless gambler, Evan said at last. I think, I answered. You were scared of falling behind and tried to sprint with my wallet. Big difference. He nodded slowly, fork tracing circles in his plate. I wanted to make up for the years I drifted. I thought a big win would show I'm finally solid. You don't prove you're solid with speed, I said. You prove it with steady work and trust rebuilt one day at a time. We finished the pie mostly in silence, the good kind. That evening I called every financial institution I deal with, credit union, brokerage, pension office. I explained calmly that unauthorized access had occurred and asked for secondary verification on all accounts. No yelling, just documentation. One rep said, Sir, I wish every client sounded like you, prepared and specific. Boring might not trend on social media, but boring protects legacies. Before bed, I wrote a 4th item for the cigar box, where I keep family promises. No tech favor without offense. I slipped it beside the note from my late wife. Get milk. Get bread. Get home safe. It felt like she approved. Next morning, Evan showed up early, on time for the first time in months, carrying coffee and a look I recognized from his Little League days after a hard loss. "Pop," he said, "I'm in. All the way. We'll untangle every wire we crossed." "That's how grown men talk," I told him. He grinned. "Guess I'm catching up. There's still a maze ahead, banks to wrangle, exchanges to pressure, trust to rebuild." But as he headed for the driveway, he turned back and said, "Thanks for not giving up on me when I messed up big." I watched him go and thought, this is only Act 1. The fight to get our money back and the deeper work of rebuilding trust, those are still ahead. I closed the door, checked that my new desk drawer rules were still in place, and poured a fresh cup of coffee. The squirrel outside was back at the feeder, patient and persistent. "Round 2, I said to him. "Let's get it right." The next morning I was up before the alarm, coffee already steaming when Evan knocked. He held 2 travel mugs and wore the kind of jacket that says I'm ready to meet a bank manager, not just a barista. "Morning, Pop. You ready to wrestle the system?" "Been ready since 1974, I said. We drove downtown with the heater humming and the January sun throwing long blue shadows across the highway. Evan tapped the steering wheel, nerves peeking through his calm face. "Dad," he said finally, "I keep replaying yesterday. I don't know why I thought moving the money first and asking later would impress you." "Because every ad you see calls speed a virtue," I answered. "But in real life, slow is the only speed that sticks." He nodded without looking over. Our first stop was Summit First Bank, where I keep my main retirement account. The lobby smelled like fresh paper and something faintly metallic. Money has its own weather. Ms. Gaines, the branch manager, ushered us into her glass-walled office. "Mr. Miller, we flagged all outgoing wires from yesterday. Nothing else has moved." "Appreciate that," I said. "But I need more than flags. I need a full trail." Evan explained the crypto transfer while Ms. Gaines typed so fast her keyboard sounded like a light rain. She pulled up a screen full of routing numbers. "This is the good news," she said, pointing. "The receiving exchange isn't offshore. It's U.S. registered, which means regulatory hooks. We can file a provisional claim." I could feel my shoulders drop a notch. "Do it," I said. She printed 3 forms: a transaction dispute, an affidavit of unauthorized movement, and a consent to investigate. Evan and I each signed, our names side by side like 2 puzzle pieces that finally belonged on the same page. Before we left, Ms. Gaines added, "I wish every client had their paperwork disorganized. Most people wait until it's too late." Evan glanced at me. "That's because most people don't have Dad's yellow pad brain." I smiled. Yellow pads never crash. Back in the truck, I pulled out a fresh page and wrote a new motto across the top. "Fast is fragile. Slow is strong." Evan read it and said, "That should be a billboard." "It is," I told him. "Just happens to hang in my head." We headed for the credit union, where I keep an old pension rollover. Same drill, patient storytelling, deliberate signatures, and a promise of follow-up by close of business. Every desk clerk we met thanked us for being so precise. None of them used the word old-fashioned. They said smart. Next came the real climb, the crypto exchange itself. We sat in my living room with my laptop open like a spotlight on a stage. A young-sounding rep named Carla answered after 2 layers of security questions. "Sir, we've locked the wallet associated with yesterday's transfer," she said. "Our compliance department is reviewing it." "How long until you release the funds back?" I asked. "Normally 3 to 5 business days. But because this was flagged as unauthorized, it may require a full compliance review." "Define full," I said. "It could take several weeks, but the funds cannot move without joint approval and documented proof of rightful ownership." Evan leaned toward the mic. "I'm the one who moved it. I admit it. I authorized full reversal to my dad's account." Carla's voice softened. That admission will speed things up considerably. I caught Evan's eye and nodded. This was the sound of a fence being built where yesterday there'd been only footprints. We made grilled cheese and ate at the counter, the kitchen smelling like childhood. Halfway through his sandwich, Evan said, "You ever wish Mom was here for this?" "All the time," I said. "She would have scolded me first and hugged me second." I smiled. "Exactly. In that order." He was quiet for a while. "I used to think big wins, startups, crypto, were the way to make you proud." "You had my pride when you learned to ride a bike," I said. "Everything since has just been bonus laps." He looked down at his plate. "I needed to hear that years ago." "Well," I said, "today works too." Kurt dropped by after lunch, holding a folder thick enough to be a doorstop. "Brought some homework," he said. "Everything you need for identity theft monitoring and credit freezes. This is the boring stuff that keeps you out of exciting trouble." He handed Evan a sheet titled Financial Fire Drills, Steps to Follow if Anything Suspicious Ever Shows Up Again. Evan scanned it. "This is gold," he said. Kurt grinned. "Gold stays shiny even when the internet's down." We set up credit monitoring, froze and used credit lines, and scheduled monthly review calls. Each action was small, but together they felt like stacking bricks around a home whose foundation had just been tested. By late afternoon, we had logged every call, scanned every document, and stored duplicates in both paper and encrypted digital form. I was about to declare victory when Evan's phone buzzed. He frowned. "Weird. That ticket number Carla gave us? Someone just tried to reroute the case to a different email." "Not from you?" I asked. He shook his head. "Not me." Kurt's eyes sharpened. "Could be an automated scam following the paper trail. They smell movement." That small alert, one unexpected email request, tightened the air again. The day's work wasn't wasted, it was timely. But it meant Act 2 wasn't just paperwork. Someone, or something, might still be trying to get at that money. I looked at Evan. "Tomorrow we finish locking every gate. Tonight we stay alert." He nodded, the set of his jaw more like a partner than a penitent. That night the house felt like it was listening. I double-checked every door lock, not because I feared burglars, but because I wanted the walls to hear me say, "We stay alert until this is finished." Evan stayed over on the couch. Around midnight I heard him moving, soft creaks on the old wood floor, then the quiet tap of a laptop. He wasn't scrolling sports. He was digging. "Found something," he said when I patted in. The blue glow made his face look half his age and twice as serious. "The email that tried to hijack our ticket number. It's linked to a data broker service. Basically, bots that watch for high-value transfers and then fish for back doors." He turned the screen so I could see a messy graph of IP addresses spidering across the world. One of these pings came from an old Wi-Fi camera we installed in the garage years ago. "Remember that thing?" I whistled. "The one we stopped using after 2 weeks? Didn't know it was still alive." "That's the weak link," Evan said. "An outdated gadget can become a welcome mat." I felt a ripple of old-school factory instinct. "Then let's shut the mat." We killed the power to the garage and unplugged every forgotten smart device. By 1 a.m. we'd reset routers and created passwords long enough to make a poet tired. The night air smelled like sawdust and fresh caution. By dawn we were at the county cyber fraud unit, a small office tucked behind the sheriff's department. Officer Ramirez, a former IT analyst who looked like she'd rather wrestle code than people, listened while Evan explained the suspicious email and the ghost camera. "Good catch," she said, jotting notes. "This pattern fits a known ring that schemes retirement transfers. We'll flag your ticket number so any reroute request pings us first." She gave us a sealed envelope with a case number and a direct phone line. "Think of this as a smoke alarm for your money." Walking out, Evan let out a breath. "Feels like we're finally ahead of the curve." "Feels like teamwork," I said. "That's richer than any crypto." Our next call was with Carla, the crypto exchange rep who'd helped us earlier. "Thanks for alerting us," she said. "Our compliance team confirms the freeze. Funds remain in escrow and can't move until we finish identity verification. With the fraud alert from local law enforcement, we can escalate this to a priority reversal." Her tone had shifted from polite to professional urgency. "Expect another update within 48 hours. I thanked her and asked for everything in writing. Carla emailed a full confirmation before we hung up. Evan gave a low whistle. "Dad, that might be the first time someone from tech support actually over-delivered." "Sometimes the slow lane pays dividends," I said. By early afternoon, we both needed air. We drove out to the old river trail where I used to bring Evan fishing when he was a kid. The bare trees leaned over the frozen water like they were eavesdropping. Evan skipped a stone across the thin ice and said, "You know, Pop, I was scared you'd never forgive me." I watched the stone slide, shatter the top layer, and sink. "Forgiveness isn't a lightning bolt," I said. "It's a steady drip. Takes time." He nodded. "I want to earn back every drop." Those words warmed me more than the winter sun. Just as we headed back to the truck, my phone buzzed. It was Carla from the exchange. "Mr. Miller, good news. The compliance team confirms that the unauthorized transfer is fully reversible. The assets are in escrow and will be returned to your original account within 3 business days." I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "There's one more thing," she added. "Because of the attempted reroute your son spotted, we recommend a permanent multi-signature lock on your account. That means no one, not even a hacker with your password, can move a dime without 2 independent approvals." "That's music to my ears," I said. Evan grinned. "And to mine." We were almost home when Evan's phone rang. He put it on speaker. "This is Ken from Prime Digital Investments," a slick voice announced. "I'm following up on a great opportunity we discussed yesterday about recovering frozen crypto funds for a small release fee." Evan cut him off. "This is a scam call. Lose this number." Ken tried again, voice sharpening. "Sir, delays will cost you thousands." Click. Evan hung up and looked at me. "They really don't quit." I smiled. "And we really don't scare easy." That quick exchange told me more than any apology. My son now heard trouble with factory floor ears, same as me. Back at the house, we made one final round of calls. Bank, credit union, Carla's team, documenting the scam call and confirming every safeguard. Kurt stopped by again and listened to our checklist with the approving nod of a man who likes his ducks not just in a row, but wearing numbered jerseys. "Looks like you two turned a crisis into a masterclass," Kurt said. "Might have to sign up myself." "First lesson's free," I said. "Slow is strong." Evan added, "Second lesson, never invest retirement money you can't afford to defend in person." Kurt laughed. "Put that on a t-shirt." After supper, Evan packed up but lingered at the door. "I'm sticking with you until this whole reversal clears," he said. "Not because I think you need a babysitter, because I want to finish what I started." I put a hand on his shoulder. "That's how grown men fix mistakes. Stay till the last nail is in." He gave me a small salute, the kind boys give fathers when words feel too small, and left. The house settled around me, warm and steady. The yellow pad on my desk now held not just problems, but proof, dates, names, ticket numbers, and the quiet victory of a son learning the value of deliberate action. The official refund would take a few days, but the deeper work, trust rebuilt, habits rewired, was already underway. Tomorrow we'd start Act 3, the final reckoning with the crypto exchange, the last hard conversation about money and responsibility, and the life lesson ending I hoped every retiree watching would remember. For tonight, I closed the blinds, poured a fresh cup of decaf, and let the house exhale. Slow and steady had won the day. 3 days later the wind came in cold off the river, the kind that makes flags snap and men walk faster. Evan was on my porch by 7:30 with 2 coffees, and a look that said, "Whatever they ask for today, we're saying yes." We didn't have to wait long. At 8:04 my phone chimed. Carla from the exchange. Morning, Mr. Miller. We're in the final stage. Compliance needs two last items. A notarized affidavit confirming you didn't authorize the transfer, and a brief video verification call with both you and your son present. Done, I said, already reaching for my yellow pad. Evan grinned. We've got pens and a camera, Carla. Say when. I'll email secure links, she said. Once we have those, we can initiate the return sweep back to your bank. Expect confirmation within 24 hours. I covered the receiver and raised my eyebrows at Evan. He mouthed, we're close. There's a small shipping store near the hardware shop where the owner can notarize documents between tape gun battles. We drove over, signed in blue ink, and watched the little stamp land like a seal on a safe. Big day, the owner asked, lining up the embossed circle. Big enough, I said. On our way out we ran straight into Nora, the neighbor who knows everybody's business and loves you anyway. You two look like fishermen who finally found the right bait, she said. Hook's set, I told her. Just reeling. Good, she said. Supper on my deck when it's done. I'll bring pie. I want to hear all the parts you can tell without getting the FCC involved. Evan laughed. Deal. Back home, we uploaded the affidavit and waited for Carla's video call. I wiped the kitchen table like a man preparing a surgical field. The laptop's camera caught the hutch behind us, with my wife's favorite plate on the top shelf, blue, white, and steady as a promise. Carla appeared, headset on, expression focused. A second box popped onto the screen. Compliance, J. Park. The man in the frame had the calm of someone who has seen every mistake twice and still believes in people. Mr. Miller, he nodded to each of us. Thank you for joining. We'll keep this efficient. He verified our IDs, read a short statement into the record, and asked Evan to summarize what he'd done. Evan didn't get cute. I moved my father's funds without permission. I thought I was helping. I was wrong. I request full reversal. Park's mouth warmed at the edges. Ownership is clear. Thank you for the candor. He explained the last mechanics. Words like escrow ledger and release batch that sounded like grown-up versions of the chores my son used to avoid. Then he said the sentence I had waited 3 cold mornings to hear. We're approving the return sweep now. I didn't realize I was gripping the table until Evan put his hand over mine. We did it, Pop. We did, I said. That's the part I'll remember. We were barely off the verification when my cell rang again, unknown number. I put it on speaker because men my age don't whisper when truth is involved. Mr. Miller, this is Rachel from your bank's fraud desk. Just confirming. We've received notice of an incoming return from the exchange. Funds will hit your account pending our internal checks. I thanked her and gave her the case number from Officer Ramirez, like a man placing a key in the right lock. She cleared her throat. I also want to flag something helpful for your records. Your son's statement today, his on-the-record admission, will speed any future coordination if there are questions. I glanced at Evan. He didn't look embarrassed. He looked grown. When we hung up, he said, Feels weird to say, but I'm grateful there's a paper trail, even the parts that make me look dumb. That's not a dumb trail, I told him. That's a responsible one. There's a kind of hour that doesn't move. We filled it with work. Kirk came over with a checklist titled, If It's Really Over, Do These Anyway. We called the credit bureaus to confirm our freezes. We scheduled a quarterly family finance check-in, not because crisis demands it, but because quiet does. On my yellow pad, I wrote a heading. Family Money Charter, drat. Evan raised an eyebrow. A charter. Nothing fancy, I said. Just rules we say out loud, so we don't have to reinvent them in a parking lot later. We wrote, Frank's accounts equals Frank's decisions. Help with tech is not permission to move funds. 2 signatures for any transfer above a set threshold. Emergency is concrete, police, doctor, fire. Financial urgency is not an emergency. Monthly review, quarterly cleanup. We look before anything leaks. No shame, early talk. If someone's struggling, we speak up before the problem gets fangs. We left space for Nora to add a neighbor clause, and for Kurt to add a "don't fall for smooth voices" footnote. The front door knocked. Officer Ramirez stood there in a windbreaker with the county emblem and a grin that said her day had found a win. "Just checking on my favorite case," she said, also dropping off something. She handed me a 1-page fraud response plan with our case number at the top, the kind of document you hope to frame but file instead. "You two did half my job for me," she said, glancing at Evan. "Most folks get offended by process. You respected it. That's why this is going fast." "Slow is strong," I said. She pointed at me with her pen. "Put that on a billboard." By late afternoon, the bank app pinged with an orange banner. I opened it with hands that didn't shake and saw the line item you dream about once you've seen the other kind. The kind where numbers exit and don't wave goodbye. Return credit, digital asset escrow. Amount, the exact figure that had left, minus a sliver of processing fees the bank promised to reimburse. I handed the phone to Evan without speaking. He read, blinked hard, and handed it back. "Pop, you're home." We didn't hug like in movies. We did something better. We sat at the table, the same kitchen table that survived science projects, late bills, and the notches where Evan carved math problems when he thought I wasn't watching. And we wrote thank you emails to Carla, to Mr. Park, to Ms. Gaines, to Ramirez. People remember when you close a loop with gratitude. Then we drove to Nora's for pie. Nora had set out mismatched plates and the kind of forks that survived 3 generations. The river light made the backyards look honest. Kurt was already there, quoting his own checklist like scripture. I told the story start to finish. Not the flashy version, the procedural one. Dates, times, ticket numbers, names. The porch went quiet in that way a porch does, when everyone realizes they just learned something they can actually use. Nora dabbed the corner of her eye with a napkin. "I'm so proud of both of you. This is what growth looks like. Not the crypto kind, the human kind." Evan lifted his glass of iced tea. "To boring victories," he said. "To boring victories," we echoed, and the ice clinked like a tiny bell that meant church was over and lunch was served. The next day, Ms. Gaines asked if I'd consider speaking at the library for the bank's senior financial safety night. "We need a real story," she said, "not a brochure." "I'll do it if my son stands next to me," I replied. Evan squeezed my shoulder. "I will." We spent the afternoon shaping a short talk. Not scary, not smug, just steady. I wrote our main points on cards. 1. If they rush you, pause. 2. If it sounds new, add witnesses. 3. If it moves your money, your voice signs, no exceptions. 4. Write it down. Paper wins arguments memory can't. 5. Slow is strong. Say it enough to believe it. When I finished the cards, I tucked them into the pocket of the jacket I saved for days that require both truth and pockets. We were ready for a quiet glide into Act 3B when an email from the exchange dinged. Subject, final confirmation, account protections. Body, multi-signature lock is active. Additionally, we recommend updating recovery contacts. A third-party compliance service has requested access. Evan frowned. I didn't request any third-party anything. I forwarded it to Carla. She called within minutes. "You did the right thing," she said. "Ignore and delete. We'll whitelist your settings so no recovery service can insert itself." Unfortunately, when word gets out that funds are moving, opportunists sniff around. "Like raccoons at the trash can," I said. She laughed. "Exactly. We'll latch the lid." I hung up and looked at Evan. Funny how storms save their last gust for when you think you've put the umbrella away. He nodded. We'll keep it by the door. That evening we walked the neighborhood loop we've walked since he was little, past the mailbox that rattles, past the maple whose roots still lift the sidewalk like a slow wave. Evan kicked a pebble, hands in his jacket pockets. "Pop," he said, "I know the money's back, but I want more than balance restored. I want trust restored." "You're on the road," I said. "Keep showing up for the boring stuff, calls, reviews, the check-ins nobody claps for. That's where trust grows." He glanced at me. "You'll do the library talk with me? Even if I mess up a line?" "I'll do it especially if you mess up a line," I said. "We're not auditioning for Broadway. We're telling the truth." We turned the last corner toward home. The porch light was on, like it always is. I could smell someone's laundry venting warm detergent into the cold. Simple things, worth everything. "Tomorrow," I said, "we tell the town what we learned." "Tomorrow," he agreed. "We make it useful." We stepped inside to a house that felt not just safer, but whole, and I laid my jacket across the chair with the note cards ready in the pocket. 5 small truths sturdy enough to carry a room. Saturday came bright and cold, the kind of January morning where the sky looks scrubbed clean. Evan and I loaded a small box of note cards and headed to the Maplewood Public Library, our local gathering spot for everything from chess tournaments to community debates. The library's event room smelled of coffee and old paper, my 2 favorite scents. Folding chairs faced a small podium where a blue county banner hung beside the American flag. A sign read Senior Financial Safety. Real stories, real protections. I whispered to Evan, "Ready to tell the truth?" He grinned. "Only way this works." Ms. Gaines from the bank opened the session. "Friends, this morning we welcome Frank and Evan Miller to share how quick action and family teamwork protected a lifetime of savings." Applause rose, gentle but strong. I stepped up to the microphone and looked out at the faces. Retirees with travel mugs, a few middle-aged kids taking notes for their parents, even a couple of teenagers dragged along by wise grandparents. "Good morning," I began. "My name is Frank Miller. 3 weeks ago, I woke to find my retirement account nearly emptied, moved without my permission into cryptocurrency. The person who moved it wasn't a stranger. It was my son." A small gasp ran through the room. I smiled to steady them. "He's standing right here beside me. We're telling this story together because mistakes don't define a family. How you fix them does." Evan stepped up. "I thought I was helping Dad grow his savings. Instead, I put everything at risk. Today we want to show you how we reversed the damage and built stronger trust than we had before." The 5 rules. I pulled our note cards from my jacket. "We came with 5 simple rules," I said, reading them slowly so pens could keep up. 1. If they rush you, pause. 2. If it sounds new, add witnesses. 3. If it moves your money, your voice signs, no exceptions. 4. Write it down. Paper wins arguments memory can't. 5. Slow is strong. Every head in the room nodded like they just recognized their own next safeguard. Hands shot up. A gray-haired woman asked, "What if the person pushing is your own child?" Evan answered without flinching, "Ask for time. Get a second opinion. Love doesn't cancel the need for caution." A retired teacher spoke next. "What was the hardest part for you, Frank?" "Deciding to stay calm," I said. "Anger makes bad contracts. Steady thinking builds strong ones." Kurt added from the back, "And write it down. Every date, every dollar." We wrapped the session with Carla's written confirmation and Officer Ramirez's fraud response plan. People took photos of the documents like souvenirs from a road they hoped never to travel. The applause at the end wasn't loud. It was lasting, the kind that means folks are tucking your words into their coat pockets for later. Evan leaned close. "Pop, I think Mom would have liked this morning." "She would have brought cookies," I said. We both laughed softly. When the last question was answered and the final handshake exchanged, the library emptied with the soft shuffle of boots on tile. Outside, the afternoon sun spilled across a thin crust of snow, turning every flake into a spark. Evan and I carried our note cards back to the truck in silence, the good kind that feels like a hymn after the last chord fades. Halfway home, Evan broke the quiet. "Pop, I was terrified when I realized what I'd done. But standing up there with you, owning it out loud, felt like a second chance." I nodded. "That's because you didn't just say sorry. You built it, brick by brick. That's how trust grows back." He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. "You think people will actually follow our 5 rules? Some will, some won't. But we planted seeds. Seeds know how to wait." The heater hummed. The snowy fields rolled by. And for the first time since that gut-punch morning, I felt the road ahead was ours, not just mine. We kept Nora's promise and stopped by her porch. She already had coffee poured and a fresh pie steaming on the table. Kurt lifted his mug. "To boring victories," he said again. "To family that learns," Nora added. We all clinked cups. Evan looked around the circle of neighbors and longtime friends. "Thanks for being our safety net," he said. "You showed me that community isn't just a nice word, it's real armor." I caught his eye. Armor we build together. The late sun dropped low, washing the snow in amber. It felt like the world itself was nodding. The golden year lesson. That night, back home, I opened the drawer where our family money charter rested. I slid in a final sheet titled What We Learned and read it aloud for the house to hear. Slow is strong. Transparency beats technology. Family is trust plus accountability. Then I closed the drawer, knowing the paper inside held more than numbers. It held a new chapter of our lives. Evan lingered by the door. "Pop, next week I'd like us to set up that monthly check-in. Same time every month. No excuses." I smiled. "Put it on the calendar. First Sunday after church." He gave a quick nod and stepped into the night, the cold air closing behind him like a clean page. I stood by the window a long while, watching his taillights fade down the quiet street. 3 weeks ago those lights would have left me wondering where trust goes when money disappears. Tonight they left a different message. Security isn't just dollars in a bank. It's the people you can face a storm with and still share pie afterwards. That's the real wealth I carry into these golden years. Not a balance sheet, but a bond forged in truth, patience, and a few well-chosen rules. If you've followed our journey, remember this. Protect your nest egg. Yes, but more than that, protect your relationships. Write things down. Talk early. And when trouble knocks, answer with calm courage. Thanks for listening. And if this story helped you, share it with someone who needs a gentle but strong reminder that slow, steady, and together always wins.